Hello, everyone, and welcome to City Lights Live, the online edition of the City Lights events calendar. I'm your host, Peter Maravellis. As always, we are beaming to you from the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples. It is always an honor and a privilege to be able to do so. Today, we are delighted to have with us award-winning author Eloghosa Osunde in conversation with Bassey Ikpi. We are celebrating the publication of Necessary Fiction, the new novel from Eloghosa Osunde. It's published by Riverhead Books. The LGBTQ community in Nigeria faces severe challenges as same-sex partnerships are illegal and punishable by up to over a decade in prison. There are no legal protections, and violence against the LGBT community is frequent. It is against this backdrop that Eloghosa Osunde has produced a courageous and enlightening depiction of cross-generational queer life in Nigeria. They explore the concepts of what constitutes family, how it is defined and by whom, and the existential question, is freedom for all? Necessary Fiction addresses these provocative questions and much more while exploring the dreams, hopes, and fears of those who are staking out lives for themselves in contemporary Nigeria. Despite the challenges one faces in contemporary Nigeria, cities like Lagos are bustling and vibrant places where people chose to live out their lives. Necessary Fiction presents a powerful and nuanced depiction of those who work to establish themselves in the city's lively cultural milieu despite the complex challenges. Eloghosa Osunde is an award-winning writer and multidisciplinary artist. They are the author of the critically acclaimed novel Vagabonds, which won a New York Times Editor's Choice and a New Yorker Best Book of the Year. They have received numerous honors for their work. This includes a MOAD African Literary Award, the Plimpton Prize for Fiction, and an ASME Award for Fiction. Their writings have appeared in the Paris Review, Granta, Bass, Georgia Review, amongst other journals. They move between Nigeria, Nairobi, and New York City. Joining them in conversation today is Bassey Ikpi. Bassey Ikpi is a New York Times bestselling author, mental health advocate, and internationally acclaimed poet. Her memoir, I'm Telling the Truth, But I'm Lying, is a critically acclaimed bestseller. A former Def Poetry Jam cast member, Ms. Ikpi is the founder of the Siwi Project, which promotes mental health awareness through initiatives like No Shame Day. Through her writing, speaking, and media appearances, her advocacy work is to raise public awareness around mental health issues. So join us now in offering a warm welcome to Eloghosa Osunde and Bassey Ikpi. It is such a pleasure and an honor to have you both with us. Welcome to City Lights.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. No, I just wanted to say thank you. That's it.
Yeah, same. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm so happy to be here and speaking with you because, as you know, I love this book. And when I started reading it, and I'll be very honest with you, when I get blurb requests, I base it on whether or not I can read the entire book because I don't like reading the first chapter and the last chapter and then writing something. Yeah. Like I really want to sit. And my intent when I started reading the book was to just start it and then finish it. Yeah. I read it in maybe 2 days, if 2 days, if 2 days, because I was so in love with these characters. And you know, I've spent time in Lagos, and I think, is that where we met? That's where we met.
I think so.
Yeah, that's where we met. And what I loved about what you did in Necessary Fiction was you showed that what really makes Lagos run are the people in the rooms that we don't see. We tend to think of Lagos as this like loud, cold, not cold, warm, but like not the friendliest, especially not to marginalize people. So what is your relationship with Lagos, first of all, and why Lagos as a setting for this book?
First of all, thank you again for being here, and thank you for your incredible blurb, which I was honestly floored by when I got. Obviously, I've been a fan of your work for ages, and I'm Telling the Truth, But I'm Lying is some of the best nonfiction ever written, as far as I'm concerned. Like, I just wanted to say that first. And then Lagos. Why did I set the book in Lagos? I think it's the place I know the most, even though I've traveled quite a bit. I was raised in Lagos and I spent the most number of years in Lagos. So it's a place that I understand with a very specific accuracy, I would say. Um, and I think after Vagabonds, I realized that I wasn't done necessarily. I wanted to see, I wanted to move sort of like from this wide view of Lagos into like a very specific friend group, and how they're making their lives happen within Lagos. And I feel like that created a different effect than, for instance, in Vagabonds, where Lagos was a character. So yeah, when I've been thinking about whether this book could have been set anywhere else, and I don't think so, because I feel like Lagos presents a very specific set of stakes and a very like specific set of options for its inhabitants. And I wanted to write about the very unique overlay of factors that go into creating a life that's sustainable.
One of the things that I was always wondering is for you, because your characters are so alive, like I felt like I was in the room and I hope nobody noticed so they keep talking. But what comes first for you? Are the characters show up for you, or does the story show up for you? And how do you know which one to honor as you're writing?
I think for me, it's definitely the characters. Sometimes I don't even know the backdrop of the book, but then the characters become clear, and all of a sudden I understand the tone of the book, which helps me then craft a rhythm. And once I know those three things, I think I can really do anything from that point on. And I think the more you learn of the characters, really, I think it also reveals more of the story. So yeah, I find that characters tend to come first for me. And once I can see their relationship to place or their relationship to others, then the story itself gains more shape.
What were these characters based on real people? Is that something I can ask you? They're so alive and they're so real. And I could not believe, as a nonfiction writer, I was like, this has to be, I can't, this has to be based on something. Because these characters are so alive and they're so distinct. And it's very difficult, I think, as a writer. I don't write fiction, so I can only imagine. To make sure that each of these characters has their entire lives and backstories in the little scenes that we see of them. How do you create such dynamic and complex characters? What is that in you? Are you magic? I mean, yes, but
were these characters based on real people? I feel like a lot of my characters are, I feel like they exist. So I don't think I make up my characters, for instance. I think they exist somehow, just not in a tangible body. So I often feel like they're telling me something that it's my own sort of duty to put down.
Yeah.
So for instance, Ziz, who starts the book with the story Good Boy, like he came to me in an afternoon and just like said all of this stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, that's where we are. But he didn't happen as someone I was making up or a character I was building. So yeah, that's kind of what this experience was like. It was more like listening than it was creating the aliveness, on the page. I think my job was to transcribe it as I was hearing it. Yeah.
That definitely came across. It came across really well. And on the subject of Ziz, I appreciated how you made sure that he was able to live and you weren't making him perform. He wasn't
Yeah.
shrinking, but he also wasn't creating a life outside of himself.
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I hear that.
Yeah, I really appreciated how, let me be professional. I really appreciated the fact that you made sure that there were no heroes and no villains really. Like you made
Yeah.
sure everybody had like a dynamic um backstory or a dynamic life. And
Hmm.
you just said that they come and they tell you their own stories.
Yeah.
Were there any particular like plot line or character who you wanted to really go one direction and they said, no, this is the story that I'm telling you to tell for me?
Yeah. Hmm. Let me think. Uh, I think May. I really wanted her to be a fun person and, be very lighthearted. I wanted her to just be like a masked lesbian living her best life.
Mm.
And it was very interesting to see what her backstory was and all the things that go on in the background of the work that she does and the way she appears and all the fun that she creates around herself. So for sure, I was stunned by that.
Yeah.
I was also a bit shocked by how much of Awele's history came up on the page. Sometimes I simply wanted them to be like in the now, in the present, where they like everything was just about the art that they were making or the fun times they were having. But sometimes I'll be trying to write that and it would be clear to me where they were coming from and why they were in the group in the first place. And I feel like with this book, for instance, being about chosen family so heavily, one of the aspects being about chosen family, I I I wasn't I didn't set out necessarily to explore the question that makes this book, but the question ended up being, how did they end up here? Like, how did these people end up, like, because they're all from many different backgrounds, but how did they get to the point where they all choose each other and then become family? And I feel like when that question came up, the book became more layered, more complex, and just better, to be honest, because then you could see that actually choosing to be in family with people who you did not know for a long time and who you have just met and who you're just choosing is also a complicated choice. Um, and then there's all of this stuff that goes into being able to trust, being able to imagine creatively what a free life can be. So those two, I would say, are an example of me being shocked out of my mind.
Like, no, that's not the story I wanted to tell. But on the subject of chosen family, one of the things that I really appreciated about the book is the concept of chosen family wasn't secondary.
Mhm,
Usually, when people write about uh, chosen family, they do so in a way where it is a result of something as opposed
mhm.
to the main focus, or the chosen part is almost like a leftover, like I guess it's us, as opposed to as opposed to it being such a crucial and foundational part. If anything, it felt like the blood families were secondary.
Yeah.
And yeah, and the chosen one was uh were the ones that were meant to be there, first of all, and they just happened to have these other relationships and family bonds. Um,
Mhm.
let me go to my book of questions. There's something I really wanted to ask you. Which character needed the fiction the most? Which one needed which one needed the fiction and which one came the closest to being living like the truth?
Mm, hmm. Whoa, okay. Wow.
Oh,
That question just hit me here. I would say one of the characters who needed the fiction the most was definitely Isoken. I
mm,
think that she struggled a lot just being like she had constructed a life for herself that she thought of as worthy and she thought of as sustainable. And even though it had, some secrets inside it, she was willing to live like that. And then here comes a daughter who's just like, I'm out and proud. And I feel like she's the person in the book who was specifically trying her hardest just to hold on to the story that she had crafted for herself and to hold on to the story that she had told herself about herself. So I'd say
mm.
Isoken definitely is one. She's right up there, when I think about people who really needed a story, to keep going. I'd say she's there. Yeah. And then I feel like the person who has shared the most of his fictions actually is Ziz, which is why I'm so glad that he begins the book in that way. Yeah. I would like to ask you a question, if that's okay.
Oh, sure.
So for the people who haven't read the book, I was curious about which characters spoke to you or resonated with you and why, or if there's anything you want to share about any of the characters, what stood out to you?
What stood out to me is what I've been saying, which was I felt like I knew them, but I didn't know them. Like all of the characters to me had some way of sparking either questions I needed to ask myself about my truths and the necessary fictions that I needed to tell myself. I felt like keep like reading backwards, like we're in the house. I'm trying to think of what particular character, but it really just was the way that you were able to showcase these people as real people. Like, I cannot get over the fact, again, as a nonfiction writer, that you created them because you created them in a way that they had their own complexities and they had their own stories and they had their own emotions that were so distinct from each other, but you made them come together in a way that made sense to everything that they needed. And you did so in a way that didn't feel like you were repeating. There was, shoot, I'm trying to remember this. Anyway, I don't want to take too much time, but I just, for me, it's less about the characters and more about the energy you created around the characters. Because I feel like they they all existed on their own, but they were all of them together was a character. Does that make yeah, all of them together was a character. And you wrote so beautifully, um, uh, and you gave us permission to look at them and gave us permission to judge them, but to do so without because I don't think judgment is negative particularly because
I get that. Yeah.
It's where you end up. And I ended up feeling as though I needed to have given them more room in the beginning because I was like, oh, who are these people? What happened here? What happened there? And then by the end of it, I was like, oh my God, I want to go back and apologize to the people I met earlier. Because you had such a cinematic way of telling this story. I felt so personally invested in how they collectively existed. And that feels like a cop-out answer, but it really just was to me, as I said in the blurb, I felt like I was sitting in the corner and I hope nobody noticed I was there so that they wouldn't stop talking. There was it's a beautiful book. And it's not just a beautiful book in the way that you kind of offhand said, oh, that was beautiful. It is deeply, deeply moving and deeply, deeply personal in a way that encompasses many people. It just, I don't even know how to say it. Because I'm trying to convey for the audience how well you know these characters by the end of it, how well you feel connected to them, how the pain that they felt. Ooh, my mind just went blank. The father.
Tigger.
No, shoot, sorry. Anyway, point is, these characters were alive and they felt like actual people at the end of the book, I wanted to Google them and see if maybe I could find out where they were at this exact moment. But that's actually a question that I want to know. Where do you think they are a year after we left them?
I like
Is
that
it
question. I really
this?
like that question.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm not sure where all of them are. But I know that their lives definitely changed after the book ended. I know that, for instance, like in the last chapter, like some of them were moving away, which also touches on this space that Nigeria is in right now, where a lot of people are, migrating to other parts of the world, and some people are moving back to Nigeria actually. So I know that's also that was a huge part of their journey by the end of the book, where it's just like, okay, wait, who's going to leave and who's going to still stay behind? And also, are we still going to meet now that some of us have left? Someone I wonder about is Akin. I'm curious about where he has performed in the world, where his career is, what other kind of music he's making. With Awele,
Star.
yeah, with Awele, I'm so curious, like, for instance, about whether she has written her book, whether it's out in the world. So those are some things I wonder about. I wonder.
Is she the character?
Tell me.
Is she the character that you see yourself in the most?
I feel like I'm split all over the book.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like every character has a bit of me in there. I related very heavily with Akim, for instance, just how he thinks about his music and his process, and that being just as much a spiritual endeavor as it is a creative pursuit. That's something I relate to very heavily. So yeah, there are parts of Awele that I find like deeply resonant, and then there are other parts as well in other characters that I'm like, I know where that came from.
You
So
definitely channeled people, or
yeah.
I'm really just in awe of how you created these characters. I really am. What do you want? What would you want the queer community in Nigeria to know about, or to get from this book,
Um,
if
I
anything?
would, yeah. So what I would like is for queer people in Nigeria right now who live in Nigeria to read this book and to be like, wait, first of all, it's possible for us to make community here. Like we don't have to move to New York or to London to create a bubble for ourselves. That's true. We don't have to leave the country to become careful with each other and tender. We can do it here. Like we can do it now. We can do it in your apartment or mine. I would like, queer people to see that on the page. I would also like for this book to be able to change the questions that people feel are the only questions they can ask themselves when they've come out to themselves. So, like, for instance, a lot of queer people come out to themselves, and then the next thing they ask is, what will my family think? And, that's very valid. But I love the story Good Boy, for instance, because then he gets to a point where he's just like, actually, what do I think about the fact that my dad is the way he is? And then, like, moving from there, because there's this sort of like indebtedness, that you're supposed to have if you discover your own queerness within your body. You're then supposed to like try your best to be excellent or a good child or a this to make up for the fact that you are yourself.
Yeah.
I would like queer people in Nigeria to see what Ziz did about his dad and to just be like, okay, yeah, like I'm the center of my life and like I get to take out the things that don't fit. Like it's not the other way around where people get to like fish me out of the community because I don't fit, So I would really like for queer people to be able to see that, they're the center of their lives and they get to decide as well who is worth remaining in contact with, who is worth having a relationship with, who is safe enough actually to tell the truth to. Yeah, because there's all of that like shame and there's all of this like heavy secrecy. So I would really like that. I would also like for queer Nigerians or queer people all over the world really to look at to look at what's happening on the page, to see that it is possible to be flawed and loved at the same time. Like all this stuff, which we have spoken about actually quite a bit, and which your book does. Like with I'm telling the truth, but I'm lying. I feel like that book was completely important, and also it deals with the same sort of thing, where it's like, is this the truth? Is this? And then it's like, yeah.
I didn't want to say anything because as a Leo, I was like, is this book about me? No, I'm just kidding. But I definitely, that the whole concept of necessary fiction, and I wanted to ask where the title came from, but please continue.
Yeah, but yeah, those two things are definitely in conversation, and I would love for us to talk about the titles actually. But what was I going to say now? Okay, yeah. So I would love for people to see that, to see the relationships on the page, and to be like, okay, wait, this is attainable. I think sometimes you don't know what's possible until you read it or watch it or see it happen like in front of you. Oh yes. So I was going to say there's this thing that's going on now about like, are you healed or are you just hiding your wounds? Are you this or are you what? And I'm just like, I wish people would ask better questions, because who is ever healed, really? And also, when I imagine my ideal chosen family, it's not full of people who are healed. It's actually full of people who are careful. And I think, like, it's possible to be careful with yourself and others, even when like you're a mess. So that's what I wanted to show in this book. Like, I wanted to show that people are worthy of love exactly as they are. And you can choose to get better from there. You can heal from there. You can heal next to other people. You don't have to show up to the group with, I don't know, all your healing in your body and in your hands. So those are the things I would really like, for queer people all over the world who are reading this to take away, but especially queer Nigerians and people anywhere who are trying to figure it out.
You showed that a lot of people think that healing is a destination, like you get there and I made it, as opposed to just part of every day. Like you have to show up for yourself and show up for that healing stuff. It's a muscle, you have to practice it. And you wrote these characters in a way that, like you said, they centered themselves, but they centered themselves in ways that were selfish sometimes.
Yes, of course.
And we're also very clear that even if it is selfish, it starts from that's the goal. If you're not aware of where it is that you stand, then you're not going to be able to know where to put other people. And you were very clear about that. So let's talk about the title, Necessary Fiction.
Okay. So there are three reasons I love the title. There's the bit about like, there's the bit about, these are the stories we tell each other, just to keep going. And that phrase was first mentioned in Good Boy when I wrote it as a standalone short story in 2020. And it was a thing that Maro told Ziz in a conversation one day where he was just like, yeah, there's this thing called necessary fictions. It's like, these things that we tell ourselves just to keep going. And that's imprinted on Ziz to the point where that was one of the things that he said when I was writing down his words. But then after I came away from the story, I remembered that the first time I had encountered that phrase in my own life was in a Lydia Yuknavitch essay.
Oh my God, I love her.
I love her so much.
I love her.
She's so good. She's so
God, I love her so much.
Yeah, same. But yeah, I went back to that essay and I found it and I was like, wait, this actually should be part of, the weaving of the story, because I think it sets some context for what I'm trying to say as well. So that's how it happened. It was kind of like, okay, Ziz mentioned this and I want to like go further into that. And I was like, wait, I have a jump off point for that. And it's this essay. And so that is sort of like the foundation for me. But for me, the title is basically saying that this is a book about the stories that people tell themselves and each other in order to keep going on. Then the second reason um, I love this book, the book title, is because I honestly believe it's in a literal way. Like, I feel that, especially the cross generational aspects of this book, I think that is something that I haven't read before. Just to be able to see young people trying to figure it out, but then also in the same book, just some pages away, being able to see their parents figuring it out. I think that's something that we need to encounter more of, because I think sometimes the lens is very trained on one generation or one thing, and it's like either tilting very heavily toward the children or toward their parents. And I wanted to create a book that is empathetic and alert and just true, you know. So I do think that it's a text that will be read and should, I don't know, like, will actually create change, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at my event a few days ago in West Kirby, this mother-daughter duo came up to me at the signing, and they were like, we came here together actually because my mom found Vagabonds and gave the book to me. And now I've been hearing about necessary fiction and I'm giving the book to her. And so they made me sign for both of them, literally. Like, the book was addressed to both of them. And I thought it was special that there was a book that there's a book that exists that someone can read and then give to her mom, or her mom can read and then give to her. Yeah, because there's all of this about, like, whoever stands in the way of my freedom is like my enemy, or is homophobic, or is that, or is that. I wanted to,
you already
that is very, exactly. We have spoken about this, but yeah, yeah. But like, I wanted to write a book that's human. Like, it's not the only reason why someone would hesitate. Sometimes it's because of their secrets, it's because of their fear, it's because of their own anger at themselves. And so I honestly believe that, like, it's a book that should be read right now. Like,
I agree.
just to, like, complicate the kinds of conversations we're having about queerness, freedom, family. And then the third reason I love the title is it's just arrogant. Like, if you see it on a shelf, it's like, this book is calling itself necessary fiction. I would pick that up.
Yeah.
So those are my three relationships to the title.
I love the title so much. And there were a couple of things I want to touch on really quickly. I loved what you just said because you did show so much compassion for characters that usually would be vilified like quickly, like immediately, just cartoonishly evil, because the greater part was to showcase the chosen family and all the things that people had gone through at the hands of these people. But showing, I think Yemisi,
Yes,
I'm
yes,
not
yes,
Yoruba. Yemisi,
yes.
um, uh, and showing just how conflicted that she was about how she felt about things. It it
Mhm,
it it showed me, and I know you a little bit,
mhm,
just how deeply compassionate you are and how you don't view people through a lens of they're out to harm me or they're out to help me. Like, you understand the complexities of human beings, and you're
mhm,
able to write from that standpoint. And it comes out, it's so evident how much compassion you have for people because of the compassion you showed all of your characters, not just the ones that you identify with or the ones that you want, to stand out. Um, but when we're talking about necessary fiction, I talk a lot about, and we discuss how people put so much value on the truth without
yes.
understanding without understanding why somebody would have to tell a necessary fiction, right?
Mhm,
And I think that when it comes to books like yours that are written like nonlinear and they have all these different nooks and crannies that the characters take, um, knowing and being able to write from an emotionally true place as a fiction writer I think is extraordinary. And you did that so well because that's my philosophy. Like the chronological truth does not matter as much as
Mhm.
emotional truth and the
Yeah.
emotional timeline of something. It doesn't matter what happened before or after if emotionally you traveled a certain journey or a certain way. I don't know how much.
I love that.
Pardon?
Sorry, I just wanted to say I really love that because there is so sometimes I get this question of like, why do you write in a non-linear way? And one of the things I really loved about I'm telling the truth, but I'm lying, and just your writing in general, is that like you were saying emotional truth is truth. And also like if you map out the way emotion travels, that's also a timeline.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? Like as opposed to this happened when someone was 8 and then this happened in the year 2020 and then this, like I love that that's something your work does, and that's something that your work did for me at a very crucial time. Like it helped me understand that the way my brain works is worth putting down on the page. So thank you so much for writing
No,
writing in that way.
I'm not gonna pretend to take credit for that. Like you are such a beautiful person and you have one of the most keep using the word compassionate heart. You see things and see people so very clearly in a way that both centers you and decenters you at the same time. Like you never lose sight of who you are and where you are in any conversation or relationship, but you also make room for the other person to show up the way that they show up. And that shows up in your writing always. So we're gonna start taking questions, I think, but I just
Yeah,
want
we're
to
waiting for the questions
how,
to come through.
oh, they
But
haven't
I'm
come through
hoping
yet?
they're trickling through. But I was hoping actually, Mrs. Cindy, if you could read us just a little
Oh, yes.
sampling of the prose, just to give people a taste, that would be great.
Can I
Okay.
just say something very quickly before they start? I
Yes.
just want to tell you that I am so very proud of you. And I'm
Thank
so
you.
very happy to see where first of all, you look beautiful, but
Thank
just
you.
how you've come from where we first met and
Mm-hmm.
the person that you've evolved into. But it's the same person you've always been. It's just, you know, just somewhere else at this point. But I'm so very proud of you, and I'm so very happy that you're able to show up and show people your work and have them just live with your characters and live with what you present and how you present them. I'm just so very, very proud of you, and I'm so very happy to be doing this. And so for other people to finally meet these people that I have also grown to love very much.
Thank you so much, Bassey. This means the world. And I just appreciate how much you have supported me since this book was even like printed. Since before this book was even printed, I mean. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here. And thank you for your thoughtful questions. And thank you for your work because, yeah.
Ranger passage.
Thank you.
But thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. It means the world to me too.
Okay.
I wasn't sure whether or not to ask you to read because it goes, if you feel like it, yes, but the pressure to have to read your work in front of people. So if you want to, is
Mm-hmm.
that something that you're prepared to do right now?
Yeah, I
Okay.
just found a page that I like.
Okay.
Okay. So this is a very short passage um, from a chapter called Family Tree. Ajimobi was never going to see past 50. To him, that much was clear. In the earlier years, Akin heard his father speak openly about this at home with Ayinke, preparing her for moments when he wouldn't be around anymore, when the house would inflate, then pucker and shrink to accommodate his absence. Once, when three of them were sat peacefully apart, reading in silence, Ayinke looked up from her page and scolded the walls for rehearsing. Ajimobi laughed and called her a terror as they watched the house take back its original size. I don't think I'm going to stay long in this body, Ajimobi told her on date 4 as they ate begiri at a vanishing restaurant. I've known that since I was a kid. I won't do anything to shorten it, but I think, it'll still be short, at least, relatively so. And Ayinke calmly replied, "Will you leave me?" He said back without hesitation, "How?" "Will you give me the rest of your days?" she asked. When he nodded, she asked, "Will you give me a child?" When he nodded, she said, "Will you make a life with me that will take care of me when you are no longer here?" After he nodded, they married the next week. They'd only known each other 2 months. In all the years they had together, Ayinke didn't really check the time. What was her business? Thank you.
What does that excerpt mean to you?
I think it's like it's a great example of what devotion can look like. I think sometimes, of course there's like risk in the world, but sometimes two people look at each other and just know. And I love that. I love the certainty of their love. And I love that they are Akin's parents. And I love that their love basically like holds him up and makes him into the character that we love in the book. But they have a very rugged, a very sturdy love. And that's something that always feels like a crucial thing to encounter to me.
Yeah. Something I didn't mention is the way that you incorporate spirituality, for a lack of a better, spirituality, mythology, supernatural. I don't know what the best word for that is. How seamlessly you incorporate it into your stories. It's not a separate entity that overlooks as like an all-seeing eye or something that comes to teach lessons and then leave. It's all so well integrated into the characters, into the stories. And I think that's one of the most beautiful parts about the book. It's not it doesn't demonize in any way. It makes it useful. Actually, it takes what is important from whatever comes of the spirit. Very beautiful. Very, very beautiful.
Thank you.
So are we taking questions? I'm seeing some questions.
Okay.
Let's see. This is from, nope, it's from City Lights. Hi. There are a lot of them from City Lights. Okay, this is for, I want to say Ayan, Ayan. Oh, sorry. I thought they were asking a question, but they were talking about, doesn't matter. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Where are these questions? Okay. Okay, I'm not going to try. Z says, please tell us about your experience in the business of book publishing. What has that been like for you? The rollout of this book has been interesting to witness. Please talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
Oh, they also first said talk about the book cover as well, but those three.
Okay. So talk about the book cover. Let me start there. So the book cover is based on art by an artist, a Nigerian artist, whose name is Afen Shegun. I saw the piece of art, and I was just like, okay, that's my book cover, because it immediately reminded me of Ziz and Maro and their brotherhood, plus their intimacy, and just the fact that they are ridiculously beautiful men. I love that, you know, their cheekbones are pronounced, and I love that there's tension in their, you know, stance, and I love how they're touching. I love that it's not sexual, but it's certainly like intimate. I also love their hair colors. Like, I love that, you know, they just have pink and blue hair. I love that their cheekbones are yelling, like incredible. Yeah, so I saw that and I was like, okay, I definitely want this. And the only thing is that we changed, actually, shout out to the design teams. But the only things that we changed were the colors. So like the colors of the shirts or the colors of the hair. So you will find that in the US version, the colors remained blue and pink. And in the UK version, they became like blue and yellow. But I think so. I actually asked about that, and apparently it was just from their knowing the UK market and what kinds of books they would pick up just by looking at them. So this went for a more like beach read sort of vibe, where the other one, the US one, was very much like bright in your face, bam, 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 like summer, like
Very American. Very American.
Exactly, very American. So I think they were specifically trying to account for the sensibilities of readers in both regions.
I just realized I haven't seen the cover because I got the.
Oh yes.
I haven't seen the cover, so I'm looking at it now. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, so that is about the cover art. I'm trying to see.
There was another question. We'll get back to it. There's a question here that I actually would love for you to answer. What are the differences between the process of writing necessary fiction compared to Vagabonds?
So Vagabonds being my debut was hard in some ways because it was just like, oh my gosh, I need to be sure that this is what I want to say as a first encounter. Exactly. Yeah. Like, is this the book that I want to come out of the gates with? And so it took me some time to kind of figure out that, okay, yes, this is the book I want to do this with. And so that process was interesting because also before then I tried to write maybe about 2 different more well-behaved novels that are supposed to be like linear and etc. And then I found myself deeply unhappy in the process, which a lot of people romanticize. They're just like, you're not meant to be happy while you're writing your book. That's part of it. Put in the work, the discipline, etc.
What?
But then I had these, or rather, like the writing process isn't about your happiness. It's more about your discipline. You have to get through the hard bits, etc., etc. But I think I realized that those were not my debut books because I just did not have joy in writing them. But then I'd written these short stories that had, you know, become really loved and that readers were very connected to. And as I was going in my process of just writing and writing more short stories, I found that the characters from earlier ones were resurfacing. And then, yeah, one day I had this moment where I was just like, wait, I can just write what makes sense to me. I can just write what makes sense to me, and I can write in the way that I know is me, like in the way that my brain understands. And so writing Vagabonds was like, first of all, coming to terms with the idea that the way my brain works is valuable. I can put that down. And so that was the process, basically like accumulating these stories that I'd written and figuring out the links and then being like, oh, this is what else would happen. If these stories are connected, then this is what else would happen to make this a novel. And so that was what happened with Vagabonds. With necessary fiction, I would say that it was a more grueling process because it's asking real life questions that I had at the time. It's literally talking about stuff that no one can escape. And I couldn't escape because I was also dealing with those questions in my own life. I was asking the questions that literally, that begin the synopsis. So like, what does family mean? What does community mean? Like, am I free? And if not, then how do I get free? those were things that I was dealing with, like even outside of the text. And so I do think that with writing necessary fiction, at first, I definitely underestimated how much of a toll it would take on me. So it was a difficult book to write, and it took a toll on me, like mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And I think I came away from it definitely changed, because it occurred to me that, oh, this book is a spiritual assignment as much as it is a novel, because it's a book that insisted on working on me as I worked on it. So I feel like the person who wrote Vagabonds was very much interested in writing like an author, an artist, and then believing that, because I didn't have a book out in the world. But I was like, if I was an author, like what book would I write? And I wrote that book, and that was Vagabonds. With this one, I think I tried to approach it from that space, and it literally threw me against the wall, changed my life, removed people from my life. And I think it became clear to me that, oh no, this is something that already exists, but is banking on me to make it tangible. So I would say that this was definitely more of a spiritually rigorous experience. And it was painful. But right now that it's out, now that it has its own container, its own body, its own space, I feel free, and I feel more sure, I guess, of my work. So yeah, that, I think that those would be the differences.
How did you care for yourself after you finished writing necessary fiction?
I'm still figuring that out. But I feel like part of the reason I started slowing down was because I realized that if I didn't, I would not make it, basically. So I had a few like health scares in the process of doing it, and I had to be like, oh wait, do I want to give so much of myself that there's nothing left at the end of this book? So it was actually fear that encouraged me to become more careful with myself. Yeah.
You mentioned, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not asking questions anymore, but I have a question.
Yeah.
You mentioned asking questions. Did answers to those questions come in the process of writing, or after you finished and you were exhausted and you felt depleted? When did the answers come for you, or at all?
I think both, for sure. Sometimes I was in the middle of a story and I was like, oh wait, this is the choice I have to make. Like, this character is literally grappling with this, and this is what May has chosen. And I think that's such a great choice, and that is the thing I would choose for May. So why don't I think I can choose that? That would come up against the things I was allowing in my own life. You'd be like, wait, if you're rooting so hard for this character making this decision, why can't you make that decision? And then it just, like, I think it completely reoriented me in the middle of the writing a lot of the time. And then some other answers came after I had finished the book, because one of the questions I had was, how honest am I willing to get about the things I actually care about? Like, these are questions I genuinely care about. Like, these are things that I'm going through as well. How honest am I willing to get? Like, how am I willing to write a book that is so close to what I'm experiencing? And then I got to the end of the book and I was like, actually, yes, I'm willing to do that if it gets me to the other side of, fear. If it gets me to the other side of fear of...
Alexa, stop. Sorry.
Yeah. Of limiting myself, I'm willing to do the work to get there, to get to a me that feels as free as possible. So some answers came during, and then some answers came after.
This actually goes into the next question from the chat, but it sounds like to me, and as you're speaking and as I'm thinking about the book, like you wrote your own spiritual text, like you wrote your own personal Bible. And I think that's extraordinary. That's absolutely extraordinary. But next question from Param says, you have previously discussed your faith and how formative reading the Bible has been for you. I wonder if you can comment more about how your
Religious.
how religion shapes your writing.
Yeah. I really love that question because I think I'm only able to write the kind of stories I write because I also feel spiritually permitted to do that. Yeah, because sometimes when I hear people say, "Yeah, that was so brave," I'm like,
Oh, I hate
I
that.
get that. Yeah, I get
Oh,
that.
I hate it.
Also, that's not why I did it. I did it because I know I'm one person who can speak to this.
Yeah.
You know, from the space where I'm standing. And so I would say over time, my spirituality has definitely morphed. Like I've definitely, my relationship with God or with my spirit, those things have clarified themselves to me over time. And now they're not rooted in like religion of any kind. It's more like I keep a sustained practice of listening as I live, you know, whether that means like journaling often or praying often or like just literally listening as I live. So like before I make major decisions, like keeping a space within myself open for an answer. Those are some of the ways that I practice my own like spirituality, and those are the ways that I work on my own spiritual muscles. Another way that I work on that is by doing my work, like by writing the things that I know are true, the things that I know that people are out there in the world asking about as well. So another reason I love this question is because so much of writing necessary fiction was also about being obedient, or being, rather actually it was more about surrendering. Yes, exactly. Surrendering to what I knew was mine to do, because I feel like there's all of this stuff where you, like, it's possible to write a safer book. It's always possible to write a safer book, like, you know. But I feel like part of why I did not choose that was because I felt safe in the understanding that I would be taken care of. Like, it just was a knowing in my spirit that, okay, if I do this work, it will bring back something. It will bring back, like, it will bring community. It will bring understanding for people who are looking for that. It will bring truth, and it will bring also self-respect. Like some parts of those things that are crucial. Some of those things had like become hazy in my life. And I feel like with this book, I really, just by trusting and having faith that it would do its work in the world, I regained crucial parts of me. So yeah, I would say that like that's how the writing and spirituality are intertwined. It feels like choosing to write the truth is a spiritual choice. Like that's a spiritual choice as much as it is a creative one. So yeah, I'm not sure if that answers the question, but that's where I am now. I also, another thing I wanted to say is that the idea of, so a lot of the time the Bible is called the living word, right? And I feel like really what that means is that it's truth that's timeless. It has a timeless quality to it because of how related to people and God and love the stories are, and how spirit charged as well. But I honestly think that the same energy that inspired people to write texts like the Bible still exists now. I don't think like the book ended and then that energy went away. So I really do believe that it's possible to keep writing from a spiritually true place, and that's what makes the text feel alive, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are my answers in strands.
It's we know that Nigeria is a deeply pseudo-religious country, and
Mm-hmm.
so much of that is about focusing on the judgment part and making sure that people know that they must repent. Like, I've never
Mm-hmm.
seen a place where people will just stand outside with a microphone and preach from 5 a.m. Like, it drove me, I could not understand what was going on, but they do so in a way that is so devoid of love and so devoid of any kind of compassion and empathy. And as I'm hearing you speak and I'm thinking about necessary fiction, I'm going to reread it with that idea in mind of like it being spiritual text, because it sounds like what you've done is you've managed to, for lack of a better, become the Christians that Christians think they are.
Hmm.
And that is so, that's so profound. Like, my mind is blown at hearing you say that. And I'm definitely going to go back and reread with that in mind, because that's extraordinary. That is absolutely extraordinary. Absolutely. You could start a cult if you wanted to, honestly.
You know, the reason that really matters to me, like, so when I left church, a question that I was asked quite a bit by people in my life was, "Are you now atheist?" And at first I wasn't sure the answer to that, even though I knew that, like, I still believed in God. Like, I was like, no, I actually do still believe in God. It's just I don't believe in this story. Like, the Christian story is very much like, you are born flawed. You will need to earn, you will
Mhm.
need to earn your place, basically, because God is disgusted with you. I divested from that story, but I didn't divest from God, because I think that really religion is basically a story about God. That's actually what it is. Like, Christianity is a story about God, and it's basically, it's a story that says you need to be redeemed. Like, God created you, but also, like, there's something fundamentally flawed in your design, and you need to, like, accept this thing that God did, which hurts God. And if you
Mhm.
don't accept that, then you can't be near God, basically. And all of these things. And so I realized, wait, that's a story about God.
Mhm.
And I don't believe that story, but that doesn't mean I don't believe that God is real, you know?
Mhm.
So another thing that I've actually been taking quite seriously is that all the stories we can ever hear about God are not done being made. Like, like right now they're popular ones, like the Christian story, the story of Islam, like, you know, and so many different religions as well. But those are stories. And there can be new stories made about God right now that are true, you know? And there are people who are also going to believe those stories.
Mhm.
So with Vagabonds, for instance, something that I love is when people are like, wait, in this text, like, your characters aren't struggling between choosing God and choosing their queerness. To be like queer and happy in that does not mean I have to lose God. And that's something that I'm specifically trying to do more and more in the text, where it's just like, no, actually, you can see people who are queer and who love God, and it's not in conflict, and it's not even rebellious, and it's not even like radical. It's just there. Like, it's just there. It's just there. So those are things that really matter to me, for sure. Yeah. So that was an thought I just wanted to put there, because I
No.
honestly feel like that's a thing people try and strip away from queer people. They're like, oh, if you're queer, then I don't know. But if someone is, or for instance, if someone is queer and Christian, then they're like, oh, but the cognitive dissonance. And it's like, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
you never know what someone's constitution is internally. But I definitely want to populate the world with more stories about all the ways that one can be in tune with their body, their sexuality, as well as their spirit.
Mm. there's something to be said, especially here in America, that a lot of the queer people in church are musicians. They're leading the choir, and to know that music is so cleansing and so spiritual. So to be able to have that connection is something that people should note, as opposed to trying to condemn everybody to hell. So, yeah, that's really powerful. I think that's it. So happy to have been speaking to you about this book. I'm no exaggeration when I tell you, I'm about to cry. No exaggeration when I tell you that this has been very important to me for various reasons. And hearing you speak about your connection to spirit and how that showed up in the book, like I said, I'm going to reread with that in mind, because I do believe that that is probably that's so powerful. And I wish that all of the people who wouldn't read this book because it's about queer people would read the book, because this is the message to come through. So thank you all for being. Oh, am I closing out? Can I close out?
Well, I will, but if you have any final thoughts, please.
No, I'm just, like I said, very, very happy to have been able to speak and to have this conversation. It's a really important conversation, and I'm just so happy to be here. And thank you, City Lights, for having me. Yeah.
Thank you so much. This has meant the world to me. What a way to close out. I feel like now I finally feel ready to go back home and just sleep after all of these. Yes, this is the last stop.
Oh, wow. Oh, I feel honored. I should have dressed up. Read t-shirt.
I know your t-shirt makes me so happy.
Show the people.
Yes.
Well, City Lights is also very, very deeply honored. Much respect. And I'd like to thank the both of you for gracing our virtual halls. Eloghosa Osunde, congratulations. This is a remarkable, really beautiful book. And Bassey Ikpi, thank you for doing the honors. You make such a great interviewer and very thoughtful questions, and ever grateful to you both. And a huge thanks to all of you in the audience for joining us and for the great questions. And as mentioned earlier, we've posted—
Buy the book.
Yeah.
Buy the book.
Buy the book.
Buy 4. Send it to your mom.
Exactly.
And if you're in the hood, better yet, come on down and get it in person. We'd love to see you. Pay us a visit. We're located in San Francisco's historic North Beach District. We are open 7 days a week from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day. Today's event has been made possible by support from the City Lights Foundation, fostering an active engagement with books and literary culture through our public events, our publishing program, and our educational outreach. And it is all dedicated to sustaining a vibrant community of readers, writers, and thinkers. So long, everyone. Take care. Be strong. Be kind to each other. And we hope to see you all again very soon.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.